Welcome students. So, we are learning about the activity based costing, and in previous two classes I just initiated this process, this discussion on the ABC with you, and we learned about to some extent that how ABC is different from the absorption or the total costing system. What are the limitations of the total costing system and how they can be done away by the activity based costing system. So, as I told you that real replacement of any total costing system is not the budget, not the standard cost, not the marginal cost, it is only activity based cost. And if we are able to implement ABC in any organization, in any firm, then certainly the problem of the over costing and the under costing will be taken care of, right. So, in the previous class I discussed with you that look that how the financial statements of this we have the balance sheet on the one side, we have the income statement on the other side, and how in case of the merchandising and the manufacturing organizations, these two statements are different. In one manufacturing organization we manufacture the goods. So, we talk about the material, we talk about the work in progress, we talk about the finished goods, we talk about the sales, we talk about the cost of goods sold. So, cost of goods sold works out as the sum total of the variable expenses, direct expenses, and from that when you subtract the selling and administrative expenses, this fixed expenses, then we arrive at the net operating income before tax. So, but in case of the merchandising organization, nothing sort of the manufacturing takes place, and only you can say that is the directly we purchase the material from the market as a for the merchandising purpose for reselling in the market, and adding up our own margin into that bought material or purchased material, we finally reprice it and then we sell it in the market, right. So, cost and income statement, when you prepare or you compare the two statements, that is the your income statement of the merchandising organizations or the manufacturing organizations. See, only difference is there in the cost of goods sold. In one case we are manufacturing, in another case we are buying it from the market, but as far as the lower part is concerned, fixed expenses, largely the fixed expenses which are selling and administrative expenses are concerned, they are fixed and same way they are being provided for, they are being subtracted from the gross margin in both the organizations. And bone of contention is are these fixed expenses, because distribution of the fixed expenses is defective in the total costing system or in the absorption costing system, which we have to correct by moving from the total costing to the activity based costing system. We have already discussed this, that the cost of goods sold for the manufacturer is direct material, direct labor and indirect cost, and the cost of goods sold for a retailer or the wholesaler is the cost of the goods. Merchandiser's cost of goods sold is usually composed of the purchase cost of items, including freight in that are acquired and then resold. Traditional cost system. Now, we will talk about the traditional cost system. This cost system which I am going to show you here, or we are going to have in this slide, this is the traditional cost system, or you can say it is based upon the absorption costing or the total costing. And here you see what is the major defect here. What we are doing here, we have on the upper hand this blue, red and the this grey colors, we have this brown color, we have these different head of expenses, and then we have the products here, and then we have some unallocatable cost, right. This is the unallocatable cost. So, in this case, say what we do here is we calculating the cost of the product, we take the direct material, direct labor and the all indirect resources we take here, and then some unallocated costs are there. So, it means we are taking into account, first part in the blue are the all variable cost, that is the material, labor and the other overheads. Red one is the all indirect cost, or you can call it as the fixed cost. So, we add it up, and then there is some unallocated cost, for example advertising expense. Now, the advertising expense is there in the organization, so which is not only for one product, it may be for the organization as a whole, company as a whole. So, it is not justified to say debit those expenses to the say cost sheet, or maybe to show as an expense in the cost sheet of any product. So, we debit them straightway from the total profit and loss account or income statement of the firm. So, in that case, in this all unallocated expenses, how we treat them, say for example, the treating is we simply capitalize them, right. We we capitalize them, and in capitalizing these expenses what we do here that we take these expenses to the balance sheet. You can call it as, they are basically called as the deferred revenue expenses. They are called as deferred revenue expenses, and this is for example the balance sheet. So, deferred revenue expense is the one, for example, we have spent say 10 lakh rupees for the ad in one particular year, advertisement for the one particular year of the company, and we are talking about all the products in that ad, or maybe it belongs to the company as a whole or the organization as a whole. And effect of that say ad is expected to be there for the next say 5 years, right, for the next 5 years. So, now because any expenditure which we have incurred which is not only for one product, which is for the firm as a whole, second thing is the expenditure is so large that the benefit of that is going to be enjoyed by the firm for the next 5 years, right. So, it is not advisable to debit that total expense in the profit and loss account, or debit the profit and loss account with that expense in the first year only in which that expense has been incurred. So, what we do is we capitalize that in the balance sheet, it is called as the advertisement expense. You call it as a factitious asset also, we call it as a deferred revenue expense or the factitious asset sometime. So, you will say it is 10 lakh rupees, right, we will show it in the balance sheet as 10 lakh rupees, and now we will divide it by 5 years. So, in 1 year what is the amount here 2 lakh rupees. So, with this 2 lakh rupees means in first year only 2 lakh rupees will be taken to the profit and loss account. So, when you prepare the profit and loss account here, you will be writing here 2 advertisement expenses amortized, advertisement expenses amortized. So, through amortization we go for this expenses, advertisement expenses amortization. So, it means only in this year's profit and loss account only 200,000 will be debited, and in the balance sheet what we will do when this amount is debited. So, we will subtract it less the amount amortized, So, what you will do here, you will be subtracting this 2 lakh rupees, and finally you are left with that balance of how much amount, that is of the 8 lakh rupees in the balance sheet for the in the beginning of the next year. So, it means we have with the process of amortization or under the process of amortization we can recover those expenses, but we never show them as a part of any product, because these are expenses which cannot be fairly allocated to any product, because here we are talking about the firm as a whole. Similarly, there could be expense like research and development. When any firm does any research and development activities, so that is with regard to different products, different maybe other marketing or maybe sometime the distribution policies also, or maybe say research and development even with regard to the financial functions also. So, those expenses are also sort of the organizational expenses, not for the one product or one service. So, in this case it means some expenses are unallocatable which directly go to the income statement, and other expenses which are allocatable or distributable, maybe the variable expenses or the fixed expenses, they are added into the cost sheet of the product. We calculate the cost per unit cost of the product, each product, adding our margin into that we determine the price, and then price for product 1, product 2, product 3, product 4. These prices are worked out, and they are means the products are taken to the market, and total amount of the sales of all the 4 products is then say becomes the sales which actually go to the say your profit and loss account, where you write it here as buy sales. So, buy sales is a total amount for the products A plus B plus C plus D, right. These are the say 4 products. So, this is a consolidated statement. So, this way we deal with different kind of the expenses here. So, direct material, direct labor, as I told you, there is no problem. Adding those expenses into the products is not at all a problem, right. There is no problem at all, we can add these expenses to the products. Whereas, the bone of contention is this red component which is the indirect cost, fixed cost, and that can be means added to the product, can be apportioned to the product maybe on some basis. But see, under the total costing system what we are doing, we are simply taking the total of production, and that production is for example of all the products is of the 200,000 units, and then for example your fixed cost is say something like this 10 lakh rupees. So, it means rupees 2 or rupees 5 per unit is the fixed cost, and we are adding that into the all the products, means irrespective of the fact that one product you are manufacturing 50,000 units, another you are manufacturing 40,000 units, another you are manufacturing 5,000 units, another you are manufacturing again 5,000 units. So, how the fixed expense can be same per unit 5 rupees for all the 4 products, because the simple principle of the fixed cost is that as the volume of production increases, fixed cost per unit decreases. But in this case, fixed cost is remaining fixed, it is not changing. So, it means this is a major defect in the total costing system or in the absorption costing system. Now, we talk about the ABC, right. From this part, I will talk to you, I will take you to the ABC activity based costing system, because we have now till now understood what are the major limitations of the total costing system or the absorption costing system, and now we are going to answer this question that how these expenses or these say the defects in the costing can be done away in the or with the help of the activity based costing. Now, activity based costing means understanding the relationship among activities, resources, costs and the cost drivers is the key to understanding ABC. Understanding the relationship among activities, resources, costs and the cost drivers is the key to understand or to understanding ABC, how ABC facilitates managers understanding of the operations. So, again I will read it. Understanding the relationships among activities, resources, costs and the cost drivers is the key to understanding ABC and how ABC facilitates managers understanding of the operations. Means the only thing is that you have to understand your operations, that how many products we are manufacturing, how many units of the different products we are manufacturing and how we have to allocate the fixed cost. So, 4 important things are there. Number 1 is the resources. Number 1 is the resources. Resources I am talking to you is that is the indirect cost. Resource is the indirect cost, that is the fixed cost. So, for example, it is 10 lakh rupees and it is not directly traceable. So, we have to apportion it on some logical basis. So, you call it as a resource, because it is the indirect resource, it is not the direct resource. So, direct trace is not possible. Second thing is we are talking about the activities. So, it means now if we have to follow that activity based costing, so we have to identify the total activities being done by the organization, which may be, as I told you yesterday in the previous class, that is 1 to 50 activities total the firm is performing. So, we have to identify those activities. So, when you talk about the cost, means the resources, activities, cost and cost drivers. So, it means now we have to talk about the cost. So, it means how we have to allocate these resources as a cost to the different products, which is a fixed cost, that is another important thing. And then we talk about the cost drivers. We talk about the cost drivers, and cost drivers are the ones that which become the basis of distributing the fixed cost to or adding up the fixed cost to the different products. So, these are the 4 important things under the activity based costing system, which we will have to identify in every organization, in every firm, and then we have to go for say calculating the total cost of production. So, next thing is that now I am taking you to the say ABC system. This is a 2-stage ABC system. 2-stage ABC system is, now you can understand that what different things are say included in it, what different things are included in it, and these different things included in it are, say we have again blue portion, those direct expenses. So, it has no problem under ABC also, under the total costing system also, allocation of the blue cost or the blue components is very easy. That is a direct material cost, direct labor cost and direct other overhead cost, and direct trace is possible to the products, because we all know how much material is required for manufacturing one means n number of units of the product, we know that directly, that is apportionable to that. How much we require labor required for manufacturing that product in the plant, we can know that. How much direct overheads are required, that we easily can know that. Only problem comes in the red component, and red component is basically the indirect resource, which is A to Z we have put it here. These resources are A to Z, right. We have put them A to Z, it means any fixed expense we are going to do it, whether it is regarding the administration expenses, salaries expenses, or say distribution expenses, or maybe you can call it as a rent, or maybe power or anything. These total fixed costs we have to take into account, and then find out the activities. Now you see, we have to find out the activities here, that how many activities are being performed in the organization, and then we are saying here that 1 to 10 activities are being performed in this organization, and finally we have to identify the cost drivers. Finally, we have to identify the cost drivers. Now, what are the cost drivers? I'll discuss with you the concept of the cost drivers before we move forward. Cost drivers are basically, means they depend upon the different type of activities. When you talk about the different type of activities identified under the activity based costing, first there are the 3 kind of activities, 1, 2 and 3. First activity is the unit activities, unit level activities, you would say unit level activities. Second is the batch level activity, batch level activities, and third one is the product sustaining activities, product sustaining activities, right. So, these are the 3 activities. Now, as per these 3 activities or in relation to these 3 activities, there are the 3 cost drivers. First drivers are the transaction drivers, transaction drivers. Second is the duration drivers, duration drivers, and third one is the your intensity drivers, intensity drivers. So, these are the 3 different type of activities any firm performs. These are the 3 different type of drivers we perform, and then finally we develop a system which is called as the ABC, activity based costing system. So, it means when you are talking about the activities here, 1 to 10 activities we are doing, in these activities we are categorizing those all activities from 1 to 3. First is the unit level activities. Unit level activities are those activities which are to be performed for all kind of the products. You are manufacturing 4 products. So, those activities are unit level activities which are required to be performed for all the products. Maybe they are the different products we are manufacturing. So, their further finishing level may be different, their further say quality of the product may be different, further their color may be different, further maybe their other features may be different, but some basic features are there which we have to means say for example, you talk about this pen we are going to manufacture, or maybe any other thing, other pen you are going to manufacture. Every pen, maybe it is same, the quality is different, the ink is different, the fineness is different, the tip of the fineness of the tip is different, but the body of the pen is same. So, every pen has to be given a body, and that means creating the body of that pen maybe it is a black, blue, red or purple, that for every pen we require a body, creation of the body, inside features may be different, quality may be different, say tip may be different, but that body has to be there for all the pens. So, you have to create, you can create the specialty later on, but first you have to create the structure of the pen. So, those activities which are to be performed for all the 4 products A, B, C and D irrespective of their means the different types, they are called as the unit level activities. Then we talk about the batch level activities. Batch level activities are those which are only performed for the say particular batch of the production, particular batch of the production. So, that is known as the batch level activities. For example, now we are normally manufacturing the black pen. There is one pen which we are manufacturing in the firm, that is the black. Now, black pen when we are talking about, black means black is the ink only, but the outer color of the body may be normally the mass color is black. Outer side means the body color is also black, ink is also black, that is why we are talking it as a black pen. But sometimes there might be order from some buyer or maybe number of buyers that okay, we want this black ink pen, but we want its body to be white, we want its body to be white. So, in that case largely the pen is remaining same, the qualities of the pen are same, fineness is same, tuning is same, but the outer structure, the body color we have to change, and that is not all the times. The standard black pen of the company is only having the black body, but in this one special order somebody has given that we need 2000 pens from you, right, we need 2000 pens from you, we need the black ink pens, but the body should be white. So, only in that lot of the 2000 pens we have to keep all other features the same, but only we have to change the color, right, and those activities will be known as the batch level activities. Those activities will be known as the batch level activities, and these activities means those activities which are not performed to all the units, which are only performed to a particular batch of the production, they are called as the batch level activities, right. And then third one is the product sustaining activities. Product sustaining activities are only performed for those products which are specially ordered, which are specially designed, specially ordered, and not a routine function, is not a routine operation of the firm, is not a routine product of the firm, right. So, product sustaining activities means, for example, some car manufacturing company is normally manufacturing the cars and they have the normal features, but some person may place a order to the company that I want these special features in my car. You manufacture this car for me, means come what may be the price, whatever the price you want to charge, you charge that, but I want these features in my car. Similarly, you talk about the say different qualities of the pens, that we want the pens, but okay, we are ready to pay you any price, but our pen should be of this quality, this stature and this type of the say the fineness. So, it means those products are specially designed, specially ordered, specially designed, or sometimes specially conceived, ordered, designed and created. And in that case, all those expenses, variable expenses also and fixed expenses also have to be allocated differently. So, three activities: unit level activities, second one is the batch level activities, and the third one are the product sustaining activities. So, it means in this case, when you talk about these activities we are performing here, you can understand that three different type of activities are to be performed in every organization, in every firm. Unit level activities to be performed for all the products, batch level activities to be performed only for a one batch of the special batch of the production, they will not be repeated or may not be repeated. Third is the product sustaining activities are only to be performed to the products which are specially ordered by the buyer and he is ready to pay a different price for that. So, these three different activities are there. According to these three activities, now we have the three drivers, because you have somehow, means for the unit level activities what is the cost and how many activities we are doing that and how we have to apportion that cost to or add it up to the different products, that is on the basis of these drivers: transaction drivers, duration drivers, intensity drivers. Transaction drivers are in terms of numbers, transaction drivers are in terms of numbers, right. Now, for example, you talk about that you want to talk about the machining of the product. The machining of the product has to be done to all the products. So, machining is the cost, for example, in engineering or machining is the cost, and that cost is say I would say it is 5 lakh rupees, right. Now, how many units we are manufacturing? We are total unit we are manufacturing is 1 lakh, right. So, rupees 5 is the per unit cost which has to be allocated to all the products. So, it means number means, or you can call it as transaction means numbers. How many times we are performing or for how many units we are performing this activity, we have to divide that unit level activities on the basis of the transaction drivers. So, number means when you talk about that the total machining cost, because machining is required for all the products. So, the common driver will be number of units of the products, and that is a transaction driver. So, on the basis of number of units manufactured, total machining cost is 5 lakhs, total units we manufacture are 1 lakh. So, machining cost per unit is 5 rupees and that will be added to all, and largely this is, you can call it as a routine type of activity, basic activity, and it is the beginning of manufacturing of any product. This is the first activity which we normally perform. Then we go for the duration drivers. Duration drivers are actually talk about the time. Duration driver actually talk about the time. So, how much time is taken for say performing one activity. We have the different kind of the production runs. We do different kind of the production runs. So, in the production runs the time taken is different. Similarly, change of the setup. So, time taken is in the change of the setup is different. Because when you are manufacturing blue pen, now you have to manufacture the black pen, you have to little cleanse that vessel where you are preparing the ink. Then you have to shift from the black to the red. So, more efforts are required, more time is required to cleanse it properly, that vessel, that not even iota of the effect of that black ink should be left in that vessel, otherwise that entire total red ink will be spoiled. or maybe while manufacturing the purple pens from the red pens, again you have to spend lot of time in cleaning and changing the setup. So, it means changing of the setup, number of the production runs, and how much time is taken for completing those production runs, they are known as the different type of drivers, and these drivers we call it as the duration drivers. So, transaction drivers we define in numbers, duration drivers we define in duration means hours, time, and intensity drivers. When you talk about the intensity drivers are only related to the third type of activities, product sustaining activities. Product sustaining activities. How complex the product is in manufacturing, intensity drivers will be used there. We are not requiring it in the normal standard products the company is manufacturing. They are only the transaction and duration drivers will be helping us to find out the cost per unit, right. But intensity drivers are required, that depending upon the intensity of the product sustaining level of the product, we have to find out that how much extra efforts we have to make, how much extra performance we have to do, and accordingly we will have to calculate that cost and apportion that cost only to those products which are basically the unique products, which are different products, specially ordered products and specially desired products. So, we have three kind of the drivers, three kind of the activities. Unit level activities are related to transaction drivers, batch level activities are related to duration drivers, and then intensity drivers are useful for the product sustaining activities, right. So, it means now when you talk about this structure of the activity based costing, we have the two stage activity based costing. What is this two stage activity based costing we are talking about is that first of all we are talking about the cost, that what is the resource, that is the red is the resource A to Z, this is the one stage. First of all you identify the head of expense. Head of expense is variable, fixed and unallocatable. Variable allocation no problem, fixed is the problem, and brown is also not a problem, means unallocatable is also not a problem. So, this is the first is to identify the different head of expenses, second is to identify the different activities to be performed, and third is means on the basis of these different heads of expenses and activities and the cost drivers. So, right, this expense we have to distribute. So, one thing is we need to have this activity, second you need to have this is the driver. So, it means this is 1 and this is 2. So, this is called as a two stage activities. Total means the finding out the ways to allocate this cost, indirect cost to the products. So, not simply on the basis of the total costing system, that total expense divided by the total number of units irrespective of the say volume of the production, that has not to be done. So, now this structure will help you to understand how the ABC works. First of all you identify the what is the total indirect cost which has to be apportioned. Then you find out next thing how many different total activities we are performing in the organization, and then the third one is the cost drivers. You find out the cost drivers, whether it is the duration driver, whether it is a transaction driver, or whether it is the say intensity driver. On the basis of these drivers you have to allocate that cost to the different products. Then the problem of over costing or the under costing will be taken care of. Now, here I am giving you some examples. Activity based costing, when you implement, you talk about all these things here, and in this case we have some examples of your activities and the cost drivers. Here activities are accounts billing and number of lines, means how many lines, or you can say the products, how many number of the products we are manufacturing, and how many means bills we have to issue, the different type of the billings. So, it means say how much, because that person is on the permanent salary, he is a permanent employee, he is getting his salary, he issues maybe say 20 bills or 200 bills in a day, he is going to be paid at the fixed rate. It may be possible that out of the 200 bills he is issuing, 10 bills are for the product A, 20 are for the B, then 50 are for the C, and the remaining number of the bills are for the product D. So, why not to distribute his expense on the basis of number of accounts, on the basis of number of lines, on the basis of the number of bills he is preparing, that will be the better option. So, this is the account billing is the activity, and cost drivers are the number of accounts, number of customers, or number of lines. Similarly, the bill verification. Bill verification is the next thing is one person prepares the bill, second person verifies the bill, and number of accounts is the driver. How many accounts pertain to one product? How many accounts pertain to the second product? How many accounts pertain to the third and the fourth product? On the basis of that, the bill verification done and the time spent is going to be the basis, or that is going to be the the way for distribution of the bill verification cost. Then the correspondence. For example, we are doing the correspondence, we are writing the letters with regard to different products we are manufacturing for acquisition of the material, or for the maybe say placing the orders, or maybe receiving the orders, or maybe dealing with the customers, or maybe dealing with the distribution channels. So, it means this correspondence we are doing, but that correspondence is different for the different products. One may be a very simple product, customized product. So, it means in that case there is no problem at all, standard product we are manufacturing. So, it means in that one letter standard long term arrangements are there between the buyers and sellers. So, we do not need to get the orders or to place the orders and then to have the material or send the materials and do lot of communications. No, that is not required. So, you allocate that cost to that product much less. And similarly, when you talk about the other products which are more complex or which is requiring more cost to be incurred, in that case you can understand that the complex product requiring time and again talking to the customers, time and again talking to the suppliers of the material, and time and again talking to the say other interest groups also. So, it means the correspondence will be very tedious in case of the complex products. So, number of letters will be changing, number of letters will be different. So, on the one side these are the activities, these are the drivers. You must have understood what I mean to say by the activities, what do I mean to say by the drivers, and how we can identify the activities, how we can identify the drivers, and how we can allocate the cost to different products on the basis of activities and on the basis of drivers. So, now today I will stop here, and further more discussion with regard to some other concepts of ABC and activity based management I will be talking to you in the next class. Thank you very much.